What's up? What's up, everyone? This is Tyler Devin with Seven Figure Entrepreneur. With me, as usual, I have Gabriel Ansel. Gabriel, you want to say what's up?
What's going on, guys? What is going on? This is 22.
Episode number 22. Still going.
Can't lose with 22s.
That's right, man. That's right.
Ludacris said it, so it must be true.
That's funny that you mentioned Ludacris. He was brought up on our last episode, too.
That's very true, actually. Big part of our lives, apparently. Big part of our lives.
What was that, Shannon?
Play some Luda as the intro on this podcast.
We should, right?
I wish we could. It's just copyright, man. Like YouTube doesn't like that anymore. You know, you get
Look at all this free press we're giving Luda right now, though. I feel like the check should be in the mail already.
I highly doubt he watches Seven Fig.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
He should.
Yeah, he should. Who knows? Maybe he'll write in one day.
He should be on it. He should be on it.
He should take me for lunch. I would love to teach him about the internet.
You gotta have a plan for what happens after rap, you know?
Yeah, right?
I think he's doing good though. Like he's got the Fast and Furious franchises. Like that guy's making bank. So
yeah, no doubt.
Never know.
Yeah.
There was actually, I think it was him, man. I think there was like a whole child support case about him, and like they revealed his financials, and it was like shockingly low.
Yeah.
Yeah, but 50 Cent went bankrupt. Do you think that actually happened?
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely, man. That's the thing. People are like, he has no money. I'm like, okay, he was just on Fast and the Furious like 5 times.
Yeah.
He's just like, he's doing some corporate shit over there.
Yeah, he put the money somewhere, so it doesn't look like he has it.
He's
exactly.
A smart man. Smart man.
Speaking of that, it's actually interesting. There's I don't know if you guys remember, but one of the main reasons that I was driven to do this podcast was simply to bring real people on who are actually doing shit. And we have potentially found another fraudster in the industry. It's unconfirmed yet. But essentially and it's funny because people would hit us up like, just so you guys know, we only bring people on this podcast that we have a relationship and we know they're actually doing stuff, not just guys that hit us up. Because we've had a few people out of nowhere hit us up. I'm like, man, I don't even know you.
Yeah.
But then there's this one guy who's in our industry, apparently worth hundreds of millions. And I'm not going to call him out. I'm going to wait till the dust settles and see what's legit. But apparently worth 100 million, and everyone's like, oh, you should have him on. You should have him on. And we chose not to. We didn't reach out to him. We didn't bring it up with him simply because we had no way of knowing, even though other people were saying he was real. And it's funny because there's this huge long thread on Facebook right now basically saying everything he's ever done has just been an image. He's just been a fraud. So I just want to reinforce the fact that anyone who's on here are people who actually do this day to day. They're not people trying to sell a course. Like sometimes they sell courses too. We don't push them, as you guys know. But these are people the real deal. Like our last episode with Chad, I've been helping Chad, not working with Chad, but we've emailed his data before. I've seen what comes through, and I know he throws up numbers. And that's the same with the guests today. I won't introduce him quite yet. But yeah, I just want you guys to know that everyone who's on here,
intro.
I know, is solid. So rest assured, guys, that if people are on here, it's because they deserve to be here. And anything they tell you is stuff that they're actually doing right now, or stuff that's working for them, or just bottom line good advice.
Yeah.
So with that said, let's bring on today's guest. I'm actually pumped to bring on today's guest because this is a new type of market or a new way of making money online that we haven't really talked about at all quite yet. And it's in the financial lead gen space. I'll let him talk about it more, about what he does and, you know, how he got started and everything like that. But he basically comes from the world of an advertiser, meaning he finds out people like me or people like Gabe, or even maybe he does internal. But what he does is basically he'll generate leads. And from there, you know, he has a whole back-end model and he will focus on that end of things. So without further ado, without disclosing the whole business model, I'd like to introduce everyone to Shannon Hansen. What's up, man?
Hey, Tyler. Thanks for having me on, Tyler and Gabe. Really appreciate you having me out here. And I wasn't quite sure where you were going with tying me into the fraudster part of it. I'm glad you saved that at the last second there.
Yeah. It's like an episode of Punk'd, you know?
Yeah, right?
That's what we're going to do. We're going to invite people on and then call them out on their bullshit. Not you, but yeah.
What did I get myself into? No, appreciate the intro and the kind words. Happy to be here and hopefully can share some tidbits that'll help people out on their journey.
Nice. I think so, man. I think it's cool because, you know, we've talked quite a bit about affiliate marketing, and we talked a whole lot about e-commerce because that's something we're obviously into. But what I mentioned before, I make most of the money I make off affiliate marketing, and Shannon's offer is actually an offer that, how long have we been mailing your offer for?
It's been a couple of years. I mean, the offer itself has been around 5-6 years on itself. So I know you've been mailing it for a couple of years.
Yeah, and this has not been like a heavy offer for us, just simply because our data is not like it's not generally refi data, but it's been a solid offer in the space for a long time. So overall, it's worked out pretty well, I'd say.
Yeah, and now we're running it on Facebook, and we're seeing great results. Slow results, but we just got started, so we have some issues with Facebook. But overall, we're getting results, and so hopefully we can scale that up here. But
you know, if anyone here works at Facebook that's listening to this, please hit us up and let us know how come our account gets manually reviewed every few days.
Man, and I could go on a rant.
We love Facebook.
I love Facebook, but their support chat's awesome. But the guys who reach out to you, these marketing experts, they're not quite reps. Oh, they're so useless.
Yeah. Hit us up, Zuck.
Yeah.
Shout out to Zuck. We love your platform, bro, but we just need some help, man. That's all.
I think it's hilarious that we still don't have a rep. Like we spent $500K in a month and nobody reached out to us.
I know.
They don't like us.
And we're always promoting people to like lure off Facebook. So one day they're going to like roll out the red carpet for us. Just say thank you. It's going to be great.
Yeah. One day we'll get a great rep.
I've heard that if you have a reasonable amount of Facebook stock shares, that there's like a backdoor there, you can request like some special attention.
Damn.
Interesting.
I got to start buying, I guess.
Yeah.
I actually bought some earlier this year when it dropped, when they announced the changes.
Sweet.
Yeah, man. But enough about Facebook. Let's talk about you, Shannon, what you do. Do you want to give people a brief synopsis?
Well, gosh, I mean, it depends on how much you want to go into like the backstory of like where I came from. I can give a little bit of that, or I can just start out where
actually, man, I think you have a really cool story if you're willing to go that far back, just with like how you started and, you know, with your wife and everything like that.
Yeah. So I'll try to keep it as brief as possible just to give some context. But I grew up, I grew up out in the middle of the Mojave Desert out here in Southern California. It's just kind of like, it's just desolate out there. There's not much going on. There's a lot of cactus and a lot of sand. And in the winter, it's super cold. And in the summer, it's super hot. And, you know, all I really had going for me, I think, looking back on it, was I had a couple parents that loved me and cared for me. And they were always there for me. We didn't have much. We were always like right on the poverty line. Like whatever the government was saying, this is the poverty line, we were like right there, like my entire childhood. So, but we always roof and all that good stuff. But I didn't know any better looking back on it. So my dad was always kind of like a jack of all trades. He ended up teaching himself how to make signs, and had this little sign shop that I kind of grew up in. Start out sweeping the floors, this and that, and then ended up working with him for about 10 years there. And then when I moved away to go to college, I had my one and only job. I was like, I guess I was 20 years old, moved away, got a job in a sign shop where I was going to school in San Luis Obispo, which is on the coast in California. So that was my one and only job. I think I had it for like 10 months. And like, I think the first kind of pivotal point in my entrepreneurial journey happened. I got into some argument with the boss. Of course, my dad always told me growing up, he's like, Shannon, someday we're all going to be working for you. And I used to laugh at that. And then, so, after working for 9 or 10 months in this sign company for this other guy, had this argument with him, and he goes, well, I forget what it was, but basically letting me go. I'm like, okay. So I go, okay, what do I do here? I'm going to college. What do I try to take out more student loans? Do I move home? Do I try to find another job? What do I do? And I go, I really think I can do this sign business thing on my own. I think I can I spent 10 years with my dad, and he always, found a way to, make ends meet one way or another. So I start planning to go ahead and do this. And then the funny thing is that my boss comes back to me. We had like 2 weeks left. And he goes, Shannon, I rethought it, and I think we could have you come back to work for us for a cut in pay. So I'm like, oh, this is an interesting decision, right? It's like, do you suck it up? Do you take the pay decrease and you go back to, what's safe and, quote unquote reasonable? Or do you do this whole strike out on your own crazy thing? And I'm like, I was like just about 21 years old at the time, maybe. I was right around my birthday. I'm like, I'm 21 years old. I don't have a family. I'm going to college and all this stuff. But I'm like, if the thought crossed my mind, I'm like, if I don't do this now, what if I go get married? What if I have kids? I may never get this chance again to see if I can do this on my own. So I tell the boss to take a hike, and I'm like, I'm going to go into business for myself. And I literally had like $500 in a pickup truck. And I think my dad loaned me some supplies and borrowed some here and there. And I used to drive around at night and look for people's signs that were they weren't lit up. That half of them was lighting or whatever. And I go back in the daytime and knock on their door and go, hey, I noticed your sign was broken, and do you want to have it fixed, kind of thing. And so, that started my whole entrepreneurial journey. And looking back on it, that was like the first pivotal decision in that started me out. I often wonder, I'm like, what would have happened if I hadn't done that? How would have things been different? But that was the first place that I really had to confront fear, because the fear was real. If I don't take this job back, I really may not make it. So fast forward, spent about 10 years in that business, kind of got a bit complacent, really, to be honest with you. I got some municipal contracts, and I was just a one-man show, didn't have any employees. And for, a guy in his 20s, I was doing pretty well. And then, ended up meeting my future wife, and, we get married, and, 3 years down the road from there, our daughter comes along. And then I'm sitting in this place where I'm reevaluating my life. And I'm now at this point in that business where, we're 10 or 11 years into it, and business was okay. But how it had evolved, the work that I was doing was really pretty dangerous. And we have a kid. I mean, your life just kind of changes. Mm-hmm. For anybody who's had a kid, they kind of know how that works. And so I'm sitting there reevaluating essentially my life and going, that part of my heart just goes, this is not for me anymore. It's not where I'm supposed to be. And again, it's I built up this safety in this business, quote unquote, because it was dependable, but it wasn't really that itch in my heart was coming back out. It's this is not where you should be doing something different than this. And I started having these thoughts of with my daughter, I'm like, I've got bigger dreams than this business. And if I continue down this road and I don't kind of go after those dreams, I look and I think, when my daughter grows up and she says, hey, should I go after my dreams? Who am I going to be to say, yeah, go after your dreams? I didn't do it, but you should.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I just got to get out of this. And it was another pivotal point, scary, lots of fear involved in it. But I basically shut down the business, just closed the doors on it.
Didn't sell it or anything?
Didn't try to sell it. Part of it was, I think, kind of a dumb move looking back on it. I probably could have sold it for something, but didn't. And
burn the bridges, burn the ships, everything.
There is some utility in burning the bridges, because it's there ain't nothing to go back to.
That's true, man. That's true.
I was one credit away from getting my engineering degree, so never got my degree there. I couldn't go back to that, or it just wasn't. There was nothing to go back to.
Yeah.
Me being kind of the I guess the optimist I am, this is back in like 2006, you know, the internet's really kind of been rocking for about 10 years. I go, there's so much opportunity online. You know, I'm just going to figure this out. You know, I'm a smart guy, you know, willing to, you know, figure things out. And so I went, okay, close the doors. And so that kind of marked a big, large turning point, and sort of started out this 6-year period. I think, you know, any of you guys have read this book by Ray Dalio, Principles, you know, the part of this
big fan
cycle of entrepreneurs, and the bottom part of the cycle that he calls the abyss. And so this 6 years started off for me there. That was really my abyss. You know, the long and the short of it is it's 6 years, ended up losing everything I owned, never claimed bankruptcy, but certainly qualified for it. I'm almost all the way through. I just was like, no, I'm not going to claim bankruptcy. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it was just, I mean, there were so many places during that 6 years where it was just like down to the last penny. Like, how are we going to pay rent? How are we even going to go to the store? How, like, is there any more change in the couch cushions to buy some gas to put in the car? Like, no, we've already looked through the couch cushions. It's like, shoot, you know, like 6 years of this. And I think I endured probably more than maybe probably more than most people would endure. Certainly less than some others, but it was 6 years. And really coming up to the end of that, where things start get interesting and moving into the whole, you know, succeeding online part of it. This was the end of 2011. And my wife basically gave me this ultimatum. She says, look, Shannon, if you're not making $5,000 a month by January 1st, 2012, you got 3 choices. Like, the first choice is you go back to school and, you know, finish your degree, go become an engineer. That's one. Second choice is you go get a job, some kind of job, don't care what it is, but you got to get a job. And the third choice is we can't be married anymore. I mean, that's like the 3 choices. She did her 6 years of this.
Battle tested, man.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely battle tested our relationship. And I don't, number one, I don't fault her at all for giving me that ultimatum. And number 2, I think it was what I needed, because it was like, holy shit, do or die. I have to figure this out, because now what's going through my head is like, I'm so close to making something. There's something that I can make happen here.
Yeah.
And if I don't make, like, all this stuff's going through my head. If I don't make this happen now, going back to my daughter, I'm like, my daughter, 20 years from now, she's going to be contemplating the same stuff, going after her dream. And she's probably had struggles, and she's asking me, you know, like, Dad, it's just stuff hasn't worked out. Should I give it up and go to the safe?
Oh.
And it goes through my head, and I'm going, I gotta figure this out, because are you there? Am I back?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just hold on still for a second. So I'm at this point, I'm like, this is do or die. I somehow, some way have to make this work. And so right around that end of 2011 point, like last quarter of 2011, I mean, you can say happenstance. I mean, everybody's beliefs are different. I tend to believe like sometimes I view this imaginary committee that's like gets to decide who comes into the success club and who doesn't, and like who qualified, and they're like watching me, and this Shannon guy, he spent 6 years, and like there's been nothing that's kept him down. I mean, we've just beat him down and beat him down and beat him down. And the guy just keeps standing back up and trying to take another swing. And it's just like, you know, how long are we going to keep trying to beat this guy down? Because he just keeps coming back. And so, you know, I feel like there's a committee somewhere, and if you bang on the door long enough and they say no long enough, at some point you just wear them down. They're like, we just got to move on to something else.
You know what, man? I agree with that.
That's
I think there's only so many times if you keep on getting back up, eventually you'll figure it out.
At some point, the door has to open. You can just keep bloodying your knuckles, and they get bloody, and they heal, and they get stronger, and you beat on the door again. And at some point, you either just break through the door, or the door, somebody on the other side opens it for you. But one way or another, you get through the door if you keep beating on it long enough. And the door finally opened for me. A lot of stuff changed, and I met a partner who I ended up spending a couple years working with, and I'll get into a little bit of specifics of how it all started out. I think it's pertinent because the way that it all started out and the way that my success started coming there is really, to be honest with you, I think somebody could do the same thing today that I did back in 2011. The business model is still there. So I'll talk about that a little bit in a second. But the numbers behind it, I think it was in 60 days, went from I have to look back at the numbers, but I had a bank account that was overdrawn by, I think it was like $5,000. I don't know how. I'm looking back on it. I'm like, how did I even get it overdrawn by $5,000? But it was overdrawn by $5,000. I remember that. So I went from overdrawn by $5,000 to, I think we had our first $20,000 month in profit in like 60 days. So it's just like,
wow,
holy crap. Well, like what, after 6 years, right, of this scraping rock bottom, 60 days and boom, you're 20 grand. And then I think it was like 8 months later, I hit like 80 grand. It was like we topped out, and then we flattened out a little bit. The business took some turns from there on. It was still good, but it was an interesting point of time, and my wife's just sitting there going, like, where did this come from? Like, I gave you this ultimatum, and then like,
I got to do this more often to you.
Yeah, because I could have given.
How come you didn't do this 6 years ago?
I should have done that in year one, right? But anyway, so whatever the reasoning was, or whatever the reasons were behind it, I guess don't really matter. But the lesson that comes out of that is just that, I just found that when your heart points you in a certain direction in life, you can choose to follow it or not follow it. Usually, if you follow it, there's a lot of challenges ahead of you in following what you're really built to do. And, lows, and probably more lows and struggles and all that kind of stuff comes with that. But out of it really comes, I think, I think everybody has a purpose, and you get to kind of fulfill your purpose if you stick with it. And I think that my time was just up there to go, okay, you passed the test, you get to move on to the next phase. And the funny
gold star.
There's not just one phase to move into, there's multiple more phases. They all have their own challenges, but certainly that first one was the toughest to break through.
Yeah, making a full-time income, I would agree, man. It's probably like the first thing that is the biggest transition. And once you get to that point, then you can really start making some moves.
Yeah, you got some freedom in your time. You got a little bit of freedom in the money you have in the bank. You can start trying new stuff. And your capacity to do more and different stuff just starts opening up, versus like people who've got, I know there's like maybe a lot of people listening who have a full-time job, and they're going, how do I do this in my part-time? And got a family, and they're working full-time plus a few hours at the job and trying to figure out how to make it online in their off hours or whatever those may be. And it's your capacity is just really limited, and most people are living if not a bit beyond their means, right up to their means. So then you need money, and you need either money or time or effort or something to devote to get through that stuff. So but yeah, once you do quote unquote make it, things do open up for you.
100%. So are you cool sharing numbers of what you did last year?
Yeah, actually, we haven't got the full numbers in, but last year I'll be as close as possible as I can here. It looks like we're going to end up somewhere between 7 to 10 million in sales. It's going to be around quadrupling what we did the year before. The year before was a dip year. There was certainly some strategic stuff behind that.
Yeah,
we created the dip, and it was kind of I wouldn't say it was. I would say it's actually was expected for the previous year to be a dip, but yeah, last year was it was great. We're looking to scale to another 400% growth this year. So yeah, somewhere in there, 7 to 10 million last year.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
10 years of overnight success.
Right.
Yeah.
So, so that's, that was, we're 2018 now, so it's been 6 years where the businesses have been successful those 6 years. Nice. So there's definitely been some peaks and valleys in between, but for the most part, to be honest with you, it's been, by any standard, it's been great the whole last 6 years, despite the peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
But probably what I would say to talk about next is like what I did right around that 2012 mark, which I think is something that everybody can do, really, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I love like being able to give people things that are tangible that they can like latch on and go out there and try for themselves.
Yeah.
One thing that I want to touch on too is that a lot of people are just getting started, and like the stresses that you were talking about in those 6 years, like I can relate to that. I've witnessed that firsthand. And like all the people that are just getting started, they're going to witness that too. So like you got to be prepared for that. It's coming.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's like, before I get into like the specific business model that we'll share here, I think that we're talking about the whole idea of there being a success club that you get to join when you get through the door or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I look at it and I think to myself, what people are wanting to achieve. Let's say they want to achieve a quote unquote 6-figure income and work from home, have free time. When you think about that, what you're really wanting to do there is something that, I would venture to guess less than 1% of the population.
Yeah.
He'll be back.
It's a highly desirable situation.
Right? We lost you for a second there. You mind repeating about 5 seconds?
Okay. Where did you lose me?
1% of the population.
Oh, right. So about 1% of the population achieves this goal that a lot of people want. It's like this elusive 6-figure income, work from home,
lifestyle business.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of like the dream, right? This is like a 1%er kind of thing. So when you look at it when you look at it just from a reasonable point of view, you go, okay, you want something that only 1% of people have.
Mm-hmm.
So it stands to reason that you're going to have to do something different and better than the other 99%.
100%.
Yeah.
That's just the rules of life. Like you're going to have to be better than the other 99%. Regardless of how easy it looks or how easy you think it might be or how easy some guru says, you buy my course and it's, you're going to magically get moved into this 1%. The bottom line is you got to be better than that other 99%. Otherwise, like I think the universe would like crumble or something if everybody could just suddenly magically do that, then success wouldn't be success. We'd have to define some new level.
Yeah, absolutely.
20%, because that would no longer apply. So
I'd like to touch on that. Like when you say better, in my mind, I don't feel you have to be better, but you have to work harder also.
So I have this interesting thing, and not really a bone to pick here, but I do have this, I kind of have this problem with the work harder mindset. And to some degree, okay, here's my thing. I think you have to be willing to work hard, but what you get paid for are results. And absolutely for me, I don't want to work harder. I want to work smarter. And I get paid for results, and I'm very cognizant of that. So I don't want to work harder. I'm willing to if I have to, but really what I want to do is work smarter. So when I see people go, yeah, you just got to work harder, I go, yeah, you have to be willing to. But if that's your whole mindset, I mean, like I look back to my dad's like kind of the poster child for this. The guy has just worked hard his entire life. Like he's still out there, like digging ditches, working with his hands. I mean, he loves to work with his hands. He gets enjoyment out of that. But that guy is just, flashing back to my childhood. And like I said, he was kind of like jack of all trades. He used to drag me along with him. He used to go pick up firewood in the middle of the summer in the low desert of California. It's like 115 to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. And he would go, because this is the time of year when nobody wants firewood. It's like burnt. It's like hot as Hades outside. Nobody wants firewood. So he's going around to the construction sites, picking up all the wood because nobody wants it that time of year. Come winter time, all that stuff's gone because everybody comes picks it up. But so he goes out in the middle of summer and he drags me along with him. Just talk about a hard worker. And I look at
smart.
Well, I mean, in a way, yeah, it's smart. But then I look at it and I go, he had an entrepreneurial bug in him, but he never got past really just kind of working to make ends meet. They ended up buying a house and they're doing fine and all that stuff at the end of the day, but never like really reached a huge level of success. And at some point, I think hard work does tend to be involved at some points, but you got to always have this in your head. How can I do this smarter? Because at the end of the day, there's only so hard that you can work. And certainly when you reach a certain level of success and you want to go further, you can't do it on hard work. I think most people can't.
Yeah.
Some people, there's outliers like Elon Musk or some of these other people who are they're just workaholics. I mean, you look at like the rest of, in Elon's case, the rest of his life, his personal life, his family life, it's kind of crazy, and it's
probably not.
But he is really smart too. He's not just a hard worker.
He's
a boy genius.
Yeah, he's amazing. Like I think whoever marries him is going to have she's going to have to be like something fucking amazing.
Yeah, well, something. I mean, he's been married like 4 times.
Yeah,
the same girl. I mean, there's a lot of. I guess what I'm pointing out here is there's a lot of craziness in his personal life. Which
totally.
Is fine.
Yeah, it's probably heavily loaded on his business life.
Exactly. So there's a misbalance there, at least from an outsider's perspective. Not to brag on Elon at all, but I guess my point here is that at some point, if you want to go further, you get successful and you want to go further, you have to really start thinking, how do I work smarter? Not as hard because there's only so many hours in the week at some point. So I do have this little issue with the work harder. I'm like, okay, be willing to work hard when you need to, but be thinking primarily, how can I work smarter? Because we all get the same 24 hours. And if you line us all up there and we all work our hardest in that 24 hours, we're kind of all on a similar playing field, versus if you figure out a way to work smarter, then you can actually get ahead. So I have a little issue with the work hard mentality, but
fair enough.
Yeah. And I kind of had to break that because that really, for a long time, I really viewed myself as a hard worker because that kind of came from my dad. And at some point I'm like, wait a minute here. I got to work smarter, not necessarily harder, smarter.
Yeah.
So anyways.
I feel like for me, there's a point where you have to pivot from working hard to working smart. Because for me, the reference that I was giving is in the start, you don't know shit. So you have to fail like constantly to learn all these lessons when you're just starting out. That was more my mindset when I was referencing that. So
yeah, so it's interesting. The overcoming the failures part of it is a whole nother side of it, and I think a lot of that is a combination of how do you deal with fear and how persistent are you. So I think hard work does. It's probably, if it lends itself towards one phase or another, it probably does lend itself more towards that phase. More hard work involved there, but. So, I mean, let's just jump into like what I did 2012.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do that.
continued to work, built upon it, and
And this is something that you feel people could do still today.
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome.
So the bottom line of what I did in 2012 was basically a middleman. And, middleman's been around forever. You're just basically buying and reselling whatever it is, product or service. In my case, and this is still valid today, and you can absolutely still go out and do this. I happened across the guy, you talked at the beginning of the call, I'm in the basically the financial lead or sales lead generation space in one of the companies. And that was where I started. I happened across the guy. It was at the time, the whole kind of online marketing community was in online forums, which is kind of shifted away from that. It's Facebook groups, Telegram, Skype, all that now. But at that time, it was all online forums. Happened across the guy at an online forum, and he was looking for mortgage leads. And he was paying, I think it was like $20 per lead at the time. And he showed me the website, and it's like, I mean, they're not asking for that much information, just like contact information, a little bit of information about the person's home. And I'm like, $20? This is worth $20? I'm like, I'm sure I can find somebody who can generate these.
Knock doors if you have to.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't. Again, I'm like,
friends and family.
I don't want to do this work myself.
Yeah.
But like somebody somewhere's got to be able to generate these for less than $20, and I'll make the difference. I'm thinking, if I'm an affiliate or a publisher, I'm thinking like, if you pay me $15 a lead for these, I'd probably be happy. So that's kind of what I went out and did. I went out in the forums. Had this. One of the key parts there was I had this direct relationship with, at that time, the advertiser, which I would eventually become the advertiser as things progressed. But I had that key relationship with the advertiser. I'm like, hey, would you set up a page that's just specialized for me, or like it's like unique to me? Like, this is my own page. Nobody else can, like, if they want to run this particular offer, they have to go through me, essentially, because it's my whatever. So he said, sure. So basically what I went out and did was I got a Has Offers account, which is just basically, you can start your affiliate network.
Yeah, affiliate tracking platform.
Yeah, it's like, at that time, I think there was actually a free trial. They don't have that anymore, but like for $100.
Sadly.
Yeah. Well, kind of them, obviously, they were giving it away for free, but now it's like $100 a month. So for $100 a month, you slap your logo on it and you're suddenly an affiliate network. I put my offer on there and I'm like, okay, I kind of, you kind of got to fake it till you make it. I'm like, I'll go out on the forum. I'm like, hey, I own this offer. I'm an advertiser, because nobody knows, that it's actually somebody else who's the advertiser. I'm like, I'm the advertiser, blah, 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 $15 a lead, whatever. And I just kind of started, putting some stuff out there and ruffling some feathers, because a lot of people come back like, oh, we've seen stuff like this before. How do we know you'll pay us? All that kind of stuff, because I was new on the block at that point in time. And, I just kind of ruffled some people's feathers and just kind of jabbed right back at them. And the funny thing is it started getting a lot of exposure for this particular thread. And on the
You're like the original Kardashian.
Yeah, exactly. And I had
weird reference.
Yeah, exactly. But I hadn't intended for that effect to happen. But once it started happening, I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna add fuel to the fire here, because the more I do, the more attention this thread on the forum gets. And on that particular forum, I think it's still the longest thread on that forum still.
That's funny.
Because I just get, people would come in and they'd say, who are you? We don't know you. I just fire back at them. And the funny thing was that there was like a handful of people who were kind of taking jabs at me, but all the while I'm getting these private messages in my inbox from publishers who are like, yeah, I saw your thread. I saw that guy taking jabs at you. They're like, what do you got? I'll take a look at it. And if it makes sense, we'll run it. We'll do a test or whatever. So out of that, I got like my first, I don't know, I'd say my first 2 or 3 good publishers. And one of them, to this day, this guy has sent leads, not kidding you, I think every day for the last 6 or 7 years.
Wow.
Without fail.
So this initial business model is still your same business model, essentially.
Well, yeah, it's evolved from there and gotten much more intricate from there. And I did actually become the advertiser. And we sell directly to banks now and all that stuff. So it's evolved a lot over time, but the model is still the same. Like if somebody came to me, you'll have to hunt me down if you really want to take me up on this.
I'll give them a head start. Go to San Diego.
Yeah, go to San Diego. You'll be pointed in the right direction. But somebody came to me, they're like, "Hey, would you white label a site for me so I can quote unquote be the advertiser and run my own affiliate network? And you're going to be a hustler and go out and get traffic? Yeah, come on, bring it on." So somebody can start with literally $100 has offer account and just, for lack of better words, just hustle their way, go get some affiliates. They're out there. They're on Facebook. They're much easier to access now.
Oh, really way easier.
And you just hustle it out there, and you'll get people to test it, and you'll find stuff that works and stuff that doesn't work, and you stop doing the stuff that doesn't work and find ways to do more of what does work. But that's how I started, and I lucked out at kind of a bit in getting into mortgage just because it's such a deep market. Like banks, there's no limit to how much money they'll spend. There really isn't. So I happened into a strong market there. But from there, the business, we've diversified into other stuff, and that's it's still a great business model. But we now have other business units there's much greater potential even than that. So that's kind of how it started. Like I said, same thing could be done today. Somebody who's got the drive. I mean, you could go out. It's not rocket science. It really isn't. It's just being a middleman. I mean, you don't need much. The beauty of it is, and I didn't know this at the time, but I kind of was working smarter rather than harder. I think I was smart enough to go, I could spend a bunch of time and energy trying to figure out how to generate these sales leads myself, or I could go out there and see if I can find some people who know a lot more about it and are a lot better at it than I am out the box, and just take my spread, my cut. And that's really how I started. And, I did find a couple guys who were really pretty good at it, and out the gate, they just kind of, that's how that whole blow up kind of happened from, zero or overdrawn to 20K in 60 days. It was because I found it was only a couple publishers that I found, and they blew it up, and that was the 20K. So,
it's funny, man, the approach you take is like, and this is a good example of how everyone has a unique way of doing stuff. I think a lot of people are really going to resonate with what you're saying about doing, working smarter rather than harder. Because I've always gone the opposite route. I'm like, let me learn how to do Facebook traffic. Right. Like I learned how to do Facebook traffic years ago, and media buying and email marketing. And like, I know I wouldn't say every, but I know a lot of the intricate details. And now Gabe has far surpassed my Facebook knowledge because he's in it every day. And so like, there's many ways to do it, but I think this is a perfectly valid one. And obviously the results speak for themselves.
Well, see, this is going back to it. I mean, guys like me need partners like you,
Exactly.
Yeah. So
makes the world go round.
Yeah. But, and so I think everybody has to bring their own strengths to the plate. Everybody has to bring value. And I'm, part of my value is I've always looked at that business as my job in that business is to turn clicks into cash for the publishers. And that all comes down to earnings per click, or we call it EPC. Like if I can make the earnings per click strong enough and consistent enough, I will never have a problem getting traffic, because there'll be somebody who can get the traffic, and they'll be happy to have somebody running the offer, doing all that stuff in the background, just going like, look, I'm going to send you clicks, you send me cash, let's keep this simple. And that's a lot of what publishers want, because there's so much noise out there, so many offers that don't perform or whatever. So that's my job.
That actually might be something to talk about, because I know me and you've had lengthy discussions about, how, like, I know I've seen this, like you run an offer day 1, day 2, it's amazing. All of a sudden day 3, it's like, it's fucking terrible. You're losing your shirt. You're losing money. You're like, what the hell happened to my traffic? And then on the back end, what you don't know is that the advertiser is pretty much stealing from you in some respects.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's still a lot of that goes on, and I think it's one of the sad sides of our industry, to be honest with you. The challenge that you have there is there's no transparency. Like you said, I mean, I could basically steal leads from you whenever I want to, because I'm the advertiser, and I just go, oh, Tyler sent me a lead, but I'm not going to give him credit for it, and you would be none the wiser. There's no way to prove it, and I can do it. I can do it consistently, a little bit at a time. I could do it just a couple days a month. If my margins are off for the month, I go, oh, I want to get back on track. I could scrub you for a couple days. And you're going to probably you're going to run that offer for at least a day, maybe 2 days before you go, I'm going to stop. Yeah. So if I do it for a day and then the next day it comes back, you're like, oh, it must have been a problem with the traffic itself. And you're just going to keep running while I made my numbers for the month. So
just for reference, every slow day we have, I blame it on Shannon. It's not my fault. It's not Facebook, it's Shannon.
I needed those 10 leads, Gabe. I really did.
He needed that.
Yeah.
He got another ultimatum from the wife.
I did, man. Yeah. I mean,
you don't buy me that new Chanel handbag.
I think it's going to take more than 10 leads to make that. So.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
That's one thing, again, like the reason, and I stressed this early on, find people who are actually like in this business long-term doing it right. Like whatever you choose to do, the people you end up wanting to learn from or you end up working with, like having people who have just good morals. Because in this online industry, people take advantage of each other all the time. And it's sad, but it's like anything else really, man.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, you can choose which path you're going to go down, and I think everybody has that choice. And you can do the same thing from the affiliate side. I mean, you can you can hire some people offshore to stuff forms.
Yeah,
and that's out there. I mean, like as an advertiser, we have to have systems in place that detects that kind of stuff and kind of chops it off before it gets out of hand, because it will get out of hand. So it kind of goes both ways, but what you're saying there, just aligning with people who are, it just really comes down to honesty and just transparency. And I think part of that, at least I realized from the start, was I wanted to work
right at those key.
So suspenseful.
Yeah, he gaps out.
Did I gap out? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no right when you were dropping that knowledge.
Oh, where did I stop?
Dial up is not what it used to be.
Yeah, I think you were saying the key.
I was saying what?
The key something?
Oh, the key. No, the key is establishing those relationships. I found out at the beginning, get relationships with people who actually own the pages that you're sending traffic to. If you're an affiliate. And that's what I did in the beginning there, because if I go, hey, we sent 500 clicks today and we're not seeing leads coming out of this, can you look in the back end and see what happened? It was, just having that level of transparency to go, let's troubleshoot this and eliminate. Was it, because sometimes there are glitches on the back end. Sometimes a buyer will reject a bunch of leads for some wacky reason and you don't get credits for those. And you go, hey, I sent 500 clicks and we got no leads. I can look into that and go in the back end and go, oh, I see what's going on. This bank started rejecting leads for some crazy reason. Let me work it out with them. I'm going to issue you credits, all that kind of stuff. I can figure that out, versus if there's like a layer between us, let's say like you're running my offer through a network and then the network works with me. The network's not going to be able to get you that information, right? So it's just going to look like, hey, I sent 500 clicks. The offer stopped performing. You either think, well, it's either the offer or it's my traffic. If I'm a publisher or an affiliate, I'm going to go, it's somebody's back there scrubbing me.
Yeah, absolutely.
It wasn't an intentional scrub. It's just something changed and it needs to be fixed or whatever. So,
it's actually really funny, man. I remember when used to do some stuff in lead gen space, and I would get from the network 3 sub IDs, and I'd run the same traffic and just rotate the 3.
Yeah.
And one would come back, be like, oh, you need a little bit more. And this was years ago. You need a little bit more data. We're not too sure. The next one would be like, oh, this data came back. It's amazing. Give us more of this traffic. And the third one would be like, this is the worst traffic we've ever seen in our lives. Like, where did you get this from? And it's like the same traffic 3 ways. So it's so funny sometimes, even how traffic plays out on the same offer.
Well, yeah, and there's a lot of that too on the advertiser side, that a lot of advertisers don't quite understand how to get a quality score on traffic. Because if you're just looking at a few, I mean, let's say you put 10 leads through each one of those sub-IDs. One of them happens, well, actually, one of the sub-IDs happens to do 2 sales. One of the other ones does no sales, and then maybe the third one does 1 sale, and they go, this first one is awesome, it did 2 sales. The second one sucks, and the third one is okay, keep going with it. 10 leads is not enough data to make those determinations. So a lot of advertisers just don't quite understand how to manage that side of it. And that just goes back to, what value do you bring here? The more value you can bring, like, we've got a lot of that stuff so dialed in that, I mean, I can really tell after, if a source truly stinks, 25 leads, I'll know. If it's anywhere outside of just a terrible source that's either fraudulent or incentivized, if it's something outside of that, I go, okay, let's give this some more time. I don't have enough data to conclude yet, but I know it's not fraudulent, essentially.
Yeah.
You go from there, you get a little more data, you go, okay, now we have enough data to go, all right, this one source is marginal, this one is more positive. But
so when you're saying marginal too, you're referencing to Gabe's Facebook traffic, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. But I mean,
I'm not in control of that. It's a roller coaster.
Well, yeah. I mean, you have to, like, without having this transparency, like in this particular case, like, we get to work with Gabe, and he's actually buying the traffic, and we have all the information in the back end, so we can actually go, okay, here's what's going on. Here's the ad sets, and here's how they're performing. You have another level, like I said, if there's like a network in between, you're not going to be able to facilitate this communication, and your traffic is just going to be judged on what the aggregate is, what the average value of it is, when there's, inevitably there's sources within Facebook or whatever, ad sets or targeting, that are awesome. Some of them aren't so awesome. And if you just cut out the stuff that sucks and just run the stuff that works, you got a scalable campaign. Yeah. But if you're looking at it as an aggregate, you're going, this just doesn't work. So without having that transparency, you just can't really troubleshoot that stuff down to the granular level.
Even the verbiage in like the landing page or the ad itself can completely change the quality of traffic.
Totally. Yeah. And like all that stuff can, those little changes can really change a lot of stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. We even saw from like right now, Gabe's rotating 3 landing pages.
Yeah.
And Shannon, from your perspective, as far as the quality that's been coming through, it seems like it's almost like night and day, which is providing the best quality so far.
Yeah, and it is strange. I'm gonna have to look back at the numbers a little bit more, but yeah, it is strange sometimes. Like you test 4 different ads or landing pages or whatever. Inevitably, one of them is going to perform substantially better than the other 3.
Tyler, stop typing.
I just don't. What's that?
Tyler's typing. That's all we can hear.
Oh, but anyway, you look at them and you go, I don't see much difference between these landing pages, but yet one of them outperforms all the others, like hand over fit, over shoulders. So it's interesting. You just never know what people respond to, and you have to just go by the numbers and go, this works, this doesn't work, and try to scale the stuff that does work.
Totally.
Yeah.
No, it makes sense, man. That's cool.
Yeah.
I just had a question. Now I lost it. As far as actually, I got it back now. One of the things that me and Gabe are doing now is Gabe's really done an amazing job mastering Facebook. And obviously he's still learning more every day. He's still growing. But one of the things we've done overall on our side is we've really looked for opportunities to find guys like Shannon, guys who are stand up, stick to their word, and then also doing things on his back end to optimize our traffic, meaning that he's going to get more value out of it. And if he gets more value out of it, we'll get more value out of it, and collectively we'll make more money. I know a lot of advertisers, and I know because I've worked with some before pretty intimately, they'll just throw a landing page up and then expect the publisher to, like, you know, make it work or not make it work. And then they're like, oh, I don't understand how come our landing page doesn't perform as someone else that's the same offer.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about some of the stuff that you do on your side to optimize traffic? Like what you feel, and you don't have to give trade secrets away, obviously, because you have competitors.
Yeah.
But like, what is it that you're doing on your end to outperform other competitors in your space?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess we try to take an active role, like you're saying, like somebody just throws up the landing page and goes, hey, send me traffic. That's kind of the typical advertiser pitch, like, send me traffic.
Yeah.
It's kind of what we're what people think, what affiliates think of when they think of advertisers. They just think like, just all we think about is just send us your traffic kind of thing. From our standpoint, though, I've always looked at it as, you know, I don't know what's going to work. So we kind of have to test and see what's going to work to begin with. So it doesn't necessarily mean that a landing page that's worked for us on other traffic will necessarily work on Facebook, but typically what we'll do is we'll test it either with our own internal traffic, or like we have publishers, obviously, that we've built up over the years who trust us and we trust them. And we go, look, we got this new page. We don't know what it's going to do. Send it some traffic. You know, if it doesn't back out or whatever, I'll pay you the difference. I'll make sure that it backs out for you, just because it's easier for us to run the test through you. You got the traffic. We'll run it through there, test the page, and then, you know, we'll figure out from there. So essentially what we're doing there is I try to pre-test as many things as possible, so that when I give somebody who's just starting on Facebook or whatever, I'm giving them something there's a higher likelihood of it being a success, just because it's worked previously. Maybe it's worked for email traffic or whatever. So we try to test that stuff ahead of time, versus I think maybe a lot of advertisers may just go, hey, we had this website designed and here it is, send us some traffic.
The designers did a good job.
Yeah, it's a beautiful site. I mean, that's another thing too, is I've found that ugly websites perform better.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, maybe they just apply more to the common man, woman, I don't know.
I mean this with all due respect. You have an ugly website.
I love
It's funny because like e-com guys are all about that. They try to like make everything look so beautiful. And I'm like, it's less about beauty and more about function.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of an ego play too. It's like, I designed this website. I think it's beautiful and it will just be awesome.
Yeah, nobody cares.
It's been rare. I've had a couple that were actually nice looking websites that did perform pretty well, and it kind of surprised me, to be honest with you. But I'm all about the results. I'm not tied to how the thing looks.
Yeah.
How it works. So you can't be tied to that stuff. But a lot of advertisers are. You know. You know, they obviously had a hand in designing this thing, and it's just like, it's like their new car. They want to show it off. Like, isn't my new car awesome?
I don't know. Does it make money?
Yeah, right.
Does it actually have an engine under the hood?
Yeah.
Around
no, it just sits there.
It just sits there.
Doesn't do much.
Yeah. So there's that part of it. We try to test that stuff. It's not a guarantee that it'll make it work for any particular traffic, but we do our best to test that beforehand, and you know, we'll test different stuff, you know, when we're working with a publisher. You know, if they're willing to work hand in hand, we'll test different pages and, you know, tweak it. At the end of the day, tweak the process to the traffic that's coming in. And then you can get more results versus an advertiser. Typical advertiser, the website's the website. They ain't changing it for nothing.
Yeah. Half the time they don't even have the authority to change it because it's just some girl being like, oh yeah, run traffic to this.
Yeah, if you're running, it's usually run through a network.
Yeah.
And it's their advertiser who actually operates the page, and they just go run it.
But you can't talk to them because they don't want you going direct either.
Exactly. So there's that people think you'll go around them. And to be honest with you, most affiliates would go around them. So they've been burned by that. So I understand that part of it too. So it's just basically what we try to do is just take out the ineffectiveness here. Get transparent, work with people who are willing to work with us, put some time and energy into it, and cater, if possible, cater the website or the offer to the traffic that's coming in. If it's scalable, we'll design a whole site that's specific to a certain segment of traffic. And maybe that website wouldn't work on email or elsewhere, but it'll work really well on that one kind of traffic. We'll do stuff like that if it's scalable, So
that makes sense.
Cool.
It takes energy, it takes effort, you kind of got to go the extra mile on both sides. But at the end of the day, the whole game here is to be able to pay more for traffic, because then the publisher can bid more for traffic, outbid their competitors. You got to remember, at least on display, they're competing against other people who want the same traffic. So that's the whole name of the game, is how much can we pay for traffic?
It's kind of like, for me, when I first got into the affiliate game, it was more like quick money. But now, like based off the model that you just said and what we've been working with together, it's more like, okay, let's make this sustainable long-term money that we can slowly keep growing it, because there's way more value in that for everybody.
Totally.
And I still feel that in the affiliate market, it's in the affiliate world, there's like always like a new hot product that you're going to beat up for 6 months and then like, okay, let's test the next thing.
It's smash and grab. But what I will say is the people, I've been in the industry for a while now, and I've noticed that the people who succeed long-term, who don't just go flash and bang or go on this consistent roller coaster, it's like they're
dude, that roller coaster is a killer.
It's stressful.
Yeah, there's a lot of that out there, and it's in a way it's kind of addictive. It's like that intermittent reinforcement. That's like the most powerful reinforcement, is like, you don't give somebody a prize every time they do something well. You get it every once in a while, and then it's just like almost an addiction. There's
it's
a
like
lot
gambling.
It is kind of like gambling. But what I've noticed is the people who rise above that and are like consistent. Maybe they're not the highest. They're not always the highest performer, but they're the consistent longest term. They're going to end up making the most amount of money, because the other guys are going to dip up and down. Those guys, they absolutely are not jumping from flash to flash to flash. They're looking to work with partners who have a similar mindset. They're in it for a long term. They'll work with them. They'll customize. They'll do all that stuff like I was just talking about. We've got publishers who work with us on that level, and their businesses overall, we're not the only offer that they're running, but overall their businesses function very, very steadily, and they're some of the highest performers out there. And they don't go for this flash and bang thing. So it's just two sides of the industry. And I would say that flash and bang is probably the majority of the people out there. Maybe 95% are just going from offer to offer to offer. Some months they're driving a Lamborghini. The next month they're driving a Honda Civic. Kind of thing. And then the other 5% are the people who are really driving I think they're the driving force behind the industry, and the evolution that happens in the industry is from that 5%, not the 95%. So
I could see that. But as Blair would like to call them, the plotters.
The plotters. Yeah, I'm definitely a plotter. I got that from my mom. She's definitely a plotter. And it's just like over time, you refine it. And then at some point you get so refined that your competitors have a hard time competing with you. That's kind of my mindset on that stuff. But yeah, it takes time and energy. It's not a short-term game.
No, it's not the most glamorous either.
No, it's not.
It's like it's consistent day in, day out, refining, testing, failing, finding a few wins, trying to multiply that, failing, and then like just building upon that.
Yeah. No pictures of Lamborghinis on my Facebook feed.
Yeah.
Not yet.
No, I don't. I mean, I'll go drive one for a weekend or whatever, but I don't think that's my car. But I've had partners in the past that was their thing, and I always went, well, all I got to do is take a plane ticket down to their place and
drive theirs.
Drive theirs, man. That's the cheapest Lamborghini I know of is a $500 plane ticket.
Absolutely. Yeah. I got to say, just the simple act of saving my money, man, has saved my butt numerous times when I've, invested too heavily in a new idea or something that I thought was going to turn, because not everything works, but like just being smart, trying to save my money, build up, just even small things like making sure you're like doing your taxes so that if you do need to scale up, like in November when we were, what was it, like 520 grand of traffic?
Yeah.
So we have a credit card that has a $200,000 limit. And I literally, as soon as I can, and I'm dumb because I should just get an Amex, but this is a Visa, right? With a $200,000 limit. And I think our biggest day we spent 36 grand. And I literally, as soon as the last year turned, I like went to the bank. I'm like, hey, I need this credit up, like increase. I think I'm going to have a good year. And I didn't need it all year until November. But man, if we didn't have this credit card in November, we would have been like we weren't able some days to pay the card fast enough.
Oh yeah.
Because the bank didn't want us overpaying like multiple times per week. I would send them $100,000, but Thanksgiving and then there's the weekend and the banks are closed for every holiday fucking possible.
Yeah.
Like there's I swear 3 extra days a month, the bank will just take off.
Yeah.
Just so you can't get your shit but it was just revolving. Like me and Gabe would play this game where I'm like, Gabe, spend as hard as you can and I'll make sure that I'm fucking paying this credit card almost daily because it was just a $200,000 limit, right? But if I didn't save money, if I didn't keep my shit up to date, there's no way we would have been able to hit that number.
And thank God for Shopify sending us payments every 2 days, right? Like that was a huge factor. Like even the weekends were hard because we wouldn't get paid out till Monday, Tuesday, and we'd get the majority of the money on Tuesday. So even that Monday, like sometimes stuff was tight because we'd have like a bunch of days to spend on that card. And from
post and from the credit card, from the Facebook charges. And we have to pay for the product cost up front too, after it's sold. So if you do,
they were almost the same.
Yeah, it would be very possible to spend 25 grand on traffic, 25 grand on product. That's 50 grand. If your credit's 200 grand, there's a day and 1 day almost gone or whatever. 1 quarter of the credit card filled. So there's without saving money to prepay all that shit. And then having the limit so that Facebook could actually charge something fast enough. You got to have a lot of shit in place.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there have been so many things that have blown up in the affiliate world, blown up in people's faces just for some side of the payment side that just blows up.
Totally.
Account gets shut off and they hold months for 6 months.
Oh yeah.
You're out of luck if you're the whole payment side of things has taken more people out than maybe anything else.
Especially you cut out for a sec. Were you talking about the mids and stuff, the merchant?
Mids,
the reserve. I've talked to people before, all their money is literally sitting in reserved, which is basically money the bank's holding on to in case you fuck up and you don't pay. They're holding on onto it so that if you have a bunch of customers refund, they're not holding the bag. And they'll have $1 million. They'll have all their profit locked up in these so it's they have the money, but they don't have the money because they can't pull it out.
How long do they hold that for? I've
heard of 12 months.
So there's all kinds of horror stories. The typical scenario there, what'll happen is they'll start out similar Shopify, would be 3-day turnaround, whatever, you get your money. And then at some point, the bank goes, we had more chargebacks than we thought or whatever. We got some queer hair up our ass that we're a little sketched out by this. We're shutting the whole thing down. We're going to hold all your funds for 6 months. And then we're going to figure out what chargebacks come in. At the end of 6 months, you're going to get whatever's left over. And as an advertiser, hopefully you had money in the bank to pay your affiliate.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just cut your own damn foot or hand off because those affiliates, they're never ever going to run you traffic ever again.
And they're going to tell everyone they know.
Yeah, they tell everyone they know, and there goes your whole reputation in the industry. So as an advertiser, you certainly better be able to pay your affiliates, regardless of what your suppliers, your bank, your blah, blah, blah does. You better hopefully have the means to pay those guys come hell or high water.
Totally. That's honestly been a way I've made money. It's just other people can't afford to run their campaigns. I've saved my money. I'll finance them, get a cut for really doing next to nothing, just like putting a little money out there in the marketplace. So just be smart with your money, guys.
Yeah, money management. I mean, there's opportunities out there, guys who don't have credit or lost their credit or whatever. I mean, you have to really sort through those people and make sure that you're partnering with somebody who knows what they're doing. But there's lots of opportunities out there that just need money to be thrown at them, and they're profitable.
100%, man. Lamborghinis only come out nicer and nicer anyways for the most part. So if you wait a few years for yours, you won't be going wrong.
There's always a new one.
That's right.
There's always a new one.
Always new better. Yeah.
One question I want to ask you, Shannon, from the advertiser point of view, what are some of the trends that you're seeing right now today that you think people should be aware of if they're wanting to get into this affiliate space?
I kind of follow, if you follow Jeff Bezos at all, I think my mentality is a little bit similar to his. And I look at, what we're engaged in, what our products offerings are. And I look at it and I go, will this be around 10 years from now? And I go, people are still going to be getting mortgages 10 years from now. Maybe the interest rates are different, whatever's happened. But by golly, unless we've had nuclear war, people are still going to be getting mortgages 10 years from now. This is not a here today, gone tomorrow thing. Other stuff like personal loans is going to be here. There've been lots of opportunities that have come along that were very lucrative for certain points, certain periods of time. And I just looked at it and I went, this is lucrative right now, but I just don't see how it's necessarily going to still be a market in 10 years. And I just passed on it. And I know some people within the industry who actually, one guy in particular I'm thinking of, he was actually in the mortgage business when I got into it, did well. One of these opportunities came along and he started on, and he's like, holy crap, I'm printing money over here. And, even offered hey, you should come do this and stop the mortgage stuff. This is way more profitable. And I looked at it, I'm like, I just don't see this being around and being as long-term as mortgage. I'm like, I'm going to stick with mortgage. And sure enough, the guy did really well for about a year and a half. And then it's just straight blew up in his face.
Yeah.
And
do you mind saying what it was?
That particular opportunity was student loan debt help.
Oh, gotcha.
And it was huge on Facebook for a while, and Facebook finally just it's in their terms and conditions now. It specifically says no ads relating anything towards student loan. It's written in there in stone. But that was their huge traffic source was Facebook. And it overnight blew up and the whole industry evaporated. And this poor guy, great guy, smart guy, hardworking guy, and we were talking about before, ends up, he lost his house. I don't know if he got a divorce, but I know he had to separate from his wife and his family, all that stuff.
Wow.
And I had lunch with him.
Financial stress is real.
Oh man, I had lunch with him and he's like, man, Shannon, I should have never got out of mortgage, and so that you go back to what differentiates. I think that's one of the things that we focus on is what's going to be around long term. And now we're just really trying to diversify into not just one thing, but a number of things that we look and we go, these are going to be around 10 years from now. So even if mortgage, goes through its bumps or whatever, the interest rates go up or whatever happens, we got these other, other things going on that are all going to counterbalance that. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a lot of our kind of what's kept us viable long term.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's good advice.
The year of diversity.
And it goes the same for affiliates too. you know, you really get to choose what you run traffic for and what you become a specialist in. And, you know, same thing, you know, what do you specialize in? And I know plenty of affiliates who, sure, they dabble in these other offers that come and go, and, you know, CBD oil or whatever the newest, latest, greatest thing is. But
Love CBD.
The core of their business is something like refi or auto insurance, and it's just like always going to be there. They're testing other stuff, and you know, they take those profit opportunities as they come, but they don't shift their entire business towards CBD oil or whatever it is.
Totally.
They'll take those profits when they're there, and as soon as that market dries up, then they'll move around to something else. But the core of their business is in something that's really stable. So
yeah, no, that makes sense. That's something we've done this year. Is like we've mentioned this plenty of times before. Our Shopify store, November, December is just killer for us.
Yeah.
And then during the year, like, you know, there's ups and downs and stuff like that. So that's how come we started diversifying ourselves, just to make sure that, you know, November, December comes, like I'm going to get, I forget what it's called. I'm going to basically buy stuff so Gabe can stay up 24/7 for 2 months and just pound those manual bidding ads. But no.
Thank you.
Really need to get you a minion.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, right. But no.
Hopefully we have a team by that time.
Yeah, that's the plan for this year, is duplicating everything Gabe's learned, his expertise, into other people, so now we can scale. But honestly, what we're doing right now is, you know, we're running some lead gen for Shannon because he's awesome, and like the way he's just a good guy to work with, as you guys have heard.
Yeah.
And then also there's a couple other things that we're playing with now that actually have kind of turned out pretty great, actually, before we started. So there's a lot of things that we're doing on our end, so to make the year more stable and like create more foundation, so we can just continue to build upon, because when you really start to master these traffic sources, like I know one company, they had some really exclusive offers and they were making 90 grand a day just off Facebook.
Yeah.
And then they were doing another few million a month off email. And then they had their network.
If you're using stuff that they want you to run.
Yeah, exactly. Not student loans, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, not student loans. Yeah. I mean, going at it with that kind of mindset, it's like almost like the sky's the limit. I mean, I know we're working with an agency right now, and they kind of take the same approach. They're buying media across a number of channels, but I think they're up to, they're telling me they're up to spending like $300,000 to $350,000 a day across their campaigns.
Wow. That's awesome.
You know, and they're like, and we think we can get to 500,000, you know, maybe $1 million over time. Who knows? So $1 million a day.
That's phenomenal, man.
That's insane.
Spend, you know.
That is badass. Like, dude, just thinking about that, I'm like, I would definitely need an Amex then.
I think they have credit lines for you.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Oh.
But at that point, you become just like
sorry, what was that? You cut out for a sec.
I was just going to say, at that point, when you start spending that much with these traffic sources, they go, we want these guys, you know, if you're Facebook or Google or whatever, they go, we want you to be able to spend as much money as possible. We don't want there to be any limits.
Yeah, we'll send you a bill at the end of the month.
Yeah. Send you the bill.
Here's a bill for $30 million.
Oh wow, hey, that's crazy.
Put it on my. Here, let me send that. What's your PayPal?
Yeah. What's your PayPal?
Wire it over, Tim. You know.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, so.
Awesome, man.
Crazy.
Well,
cool.
I think we've been going for an hour. We actually did this podcast on a Sunday, which is cool. Right. But I actually didn't wake up till like noon today, and the podcast was at 1.
I will say, like, doing it earlier in the morning for me, I'm a little slower.
Me too, man. Me too. Yeah. But this has been awesome, dude. Shannon, thank you so much for coming on. I think you've provided people with really great advice, places to start, as well as like how to maybe like navigate things more strategically, like thinking 10 years out, what's going to be around. Yeah. There's something special about investing your time into becoming an expert, which we've talked about a million fucking times. Like there's a compounding effect where you're only going to get better.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, it's funny when you talk about relaying it back to the beginning of the call where you're talking about everyone has 24 hours a day. That's true. And like the people who jump from one thing to the next, like just by sticking with someone, like Gabe's been, Shannon's been in the refi space for years now. Gabe's been in just Facebook average traffic for 2.5 years. He has such a leg up both of them have a leg up on anyone else trying to get him, because they've withstood the test of time, and they've consistently compounded their knowledge and their expertise over time. So that's definitely one way to get ahead, is just fucking stick with something.
Yeah. And not to make us go too much longer here, it's interesting though. A couple of days ago, one of our team members was asking me. I had asked. He was a fairly new guy to the team, and I asked him at one point. I'm like, "What do you consider your strengths to be?" And he basically listed off what he listed off, and then a few weeks later, he came back to me. He's like, Shannon, you asked me that question. He's like, and I feel like I want to ask you what you think your strengths are. And I'm like, well, that's very insightful. And so I thought about it, and I came up with 4 things, and it kind of might just put a little bit of a bow on the call here. I came up with 4 things. The 4th one is a bit optional for, I think, depending on what level you want to succeed at, it may be optional, but the other 3 I think are critical regardless of what you do. The first thing was, you have to be persistent, but know when to be persistent. And I think that when to be persistent part comes with time, but you better be ready to lay everything on the line if you need to, and persist, kind of like get rich or die trying. If you don't have that mentality, if you don't quite think you can stick it out regardless of what might come at you, to be honest with you, I say stick with your day job until you get that mentality, because all you're going to do is you're going to spend all your money, you're going to go halfway, and something's going to get thrown at you, and you're going to quit when you should have just never started. You should have just kept the money you put into whatever it is, and put it into buying a rental house or something really safe and consistent. If you're not ready to persist until you get the job done, whatever it takes, don't even get started. Because you're gonna waste your money. You're gonna kill yourself mentally, because you'll go through that. I went through that a few times. Spent money on stuff, went halfway, and then quit. Did it over and over, and then you start building up this mentality that you just don't win at anything, and that's just counterproductive. So that's the first thing, is I'm persistent when I need to be, and that's the first part. The second part was, I don't let fear stand in my way. That was really, like 6 years, like the whole 6-year story, that really formed, I got through a ton of stuff that I was afraid would happen. It all happened, and I got through all of it. And because of that, I came out of it going, I still feel fear every day. When we're trying to scale a business, there's always fear involved. There's always risk. It doesn't matter what level. You think you get rich and then everything is just rosy, and everything's easy from there. It's just not the case. You always want to go to another level, and it always requires risk. There's always fear there. And to be honest with you, the fear just never goes away. How you deal with it is what can change. And just through that 6 years, I just learned that I didn't have to let fear stop me from anything, that I could survive whatever punches got thrown at me. And so I don't let fear stand in my way of what I want. And that was a really tough one to learn, but I think it's probably one of the greatest strengths that I came out of it with, is you can't, I faced fear so many times that now you can't keep me away from an opportunity just because it's scary. And I don't care how scary it is, because I've survived so much stuff. I just go, as scary as that looks, I've survived stuff that's scarier than that. So, I can get through this. So that's the second thing, is I won't let fear stand in my way. The third thing is it's kind of a combination of curiosity and I've always had this intrinsic desire to create value. And I think if a person can be curious around how to create value, like when I first had my first success being a middleman, I created value for both sides, for the advertiser side and for the affiliate in doing what I did. And so I've always been curious to find new ways to create value, improve that whatever we're doing, and create more value. If a person can really get focused around creating value for the marketplace, there's always opportunity if you look at it from that perspective. And then the fourth thing, like I said, I think is optional, depending on what level you want to succeed at. But for me, the fourth thing was being coachable. And I didn't really need to get coachable until I reached and kind of plateaued at a certain level. You heard my initial success story, kind of got up to $100,000 a month. That's very doable for even a one-man operation. Maybe you got an assistant. But in this business, you can absolutely get to $100,000 a month with just one assistant. You want to go past that, the hours in the day there's only so many of them, and you can't get past it without having people working with you.
Totally.
And in my case, and I think in the majority of people, everybody else's cases out there, we're not born leaders, managers. Like, this is not our passion in life, is to manage people or to know how to recruit or find people. And in my case, and I think in a lot of people's cases, when they get to that level, you have to make the shift towards being coachable, because, okay, even if you're persistent and you go, I'm going to figure this out on my own, how long is this going to take you? Like, do you really want to put, let's say, 10 years of your life into trying different shit, reading books, taking courses, maybe trying to learn from a book how to manage people? Are you really going to learn that from there? Or do you go out and you find somebody who knows what they're talking about, has been through all this crap before, has seen it all, done it all, and you just go, teach me, show me how to do this. And that was a pivotal point for going from 100,000 and being able to set yourself up to go much bigger, create an organization where you got 20, 50, 100 people working for you, 500 people, 1,000, building something that's scalable in that respect. You can't afford to invest 10, 20 years of your life figuring that shit out that somebody already knows. There's already an expert out there. And if you'll just get coachable, leave your ego at the door, go, I don't know crap about managing people. I need to learn. You're an expert. I'm going to pay you really well to teach me how to do this. There's a ton of utility in doing that once you get to that level where you've got the resources, and it's an investment, but there's just it just doesn't make sense to try and figure all of that out on your own at that level. So when I say fourth one is optional, you can absolutely get to $100,000 a month-ish level in this business without being coachable. You can be like, I'm going to just figure this out on my own. Absolutely. You can get there, be persistent, and figure it out on your own. But once you get to that level, you start to notice you flatline at that level. It's like, it's time to pay, not necessarily go find a guru, because you got to look for people who have actual results to back it up. But at that level, you need to get coachable. Otherwise, it's going to take you 10, 20 years to figure out this stuff, and it's just not worth it. So those are the four things. This member of our team asked me what my strengths were. Those are the four that came up for me. So maybe that can just kind of wrap things up for the call.
Yeah,
cool.
Dig it, man.
Yeah, that works for me.
Sweet.
Awesome.
That was awesome. Great advice.
Yeah. There's times like when you were talking, I was just kind of like laughing in my head. It's funny. One of the things I thought in life was like, oh, if I just make more money, I'll have less problems. In some respects, that's true. But the truth of the scenario is you have bigger problems.
Yeah, you might have fewer problems, but they do become much bigger. Much
bigger. And it's just, I feel like it's that the next level, you're like knocking on the door, trying to get in, being like, hey man, like open this door. And we're like, well, we'll see how you do first on this.
Yep. It's the same thing over again, because the levels don't end,
No, man.
Yeah.
They do get more and more challenging. You have more and more tools to deal with the challenges, but yeah, I mean, you make your first million or whatever, the game's not over there,
Nope.
Yeah.
You can go sit on the beach for maybe a month or so until you start driving yourself crazy, with nothing to do.
At least you'll be driving in a Lambo.
Yeah. Sooner or later.
I'm just kidding.
Sooner or later, you're gonna come back and
Beachland.
like human beings, I think, have this intrinsic need to feel like they're doing something, and you can't quite feel like you're doing something unless you have a challenge to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not for creating challenges that are like that don't actually exist, but I am for people need to be playing a game in life. And whether the game is woe is me, let me convince you that I'm incapable or the world is against me and you should, feel pity on me. That's one game. And then there's other games to play. It's like, okay, great. We got this business to 100K a month. How do we bring it to 1 million? They're both games and everybody's playing their own games. But it's just a choice of what game do you want to play. And they all have the same ingredients. They've got risk involved and it takes skill and overcoming fear and all that stuff's involved to go to another level in the game. But you get to one level, it's great to pat yourself on the back a little bit and go, you made it to this level, and you take a little time to breathe deeply and go, this was awesome. And then you go, okay, it's time to get back to it. We got to get to the next level because I ain't sticking around here for long.
Yeah, I hear you, man. Mm-hmm. Awesome, dude. Well, thank you so much for being on. We totally appreciate it. I know our community does too.
Yeah.
We usually, if people want to get in touch with you, usually if you want to leave your information, feel free or whatever. If I were to try to attempt to stalk you, I'd probably look you up on Facebook.
Probably.
So maybe we'll leave it at that. Other than that, guys, if you guys like this episode, let us know. Shannon is definitely awesome. His business model is badass. Obviously, it's been working around, or it's been going on for 6 years now. It's continuing to scale. So if you're looking for a way to make money online, this is definitely a great viable option. And it's a way you can maybe do it differently than me and Gabe do it, where we try to figure all this stuff out, but you just leverage other people around you. So there's so many ways to do it.
Yeah.
But with that said, let us know if you like it. Give us the old thumbs up on the good old iTunes.
Yeah.
I feel so old when I even say that, man.
The tune vibe.
On the interwebs.
On the interwebs, on the line. And get part of the Facebook group. It's actually it's something I'm proud of. People are helping each other out every day in there. It's so cool. People are like, oh, what do you think of my, you know what, Shannon? So in our Facebook group, people actually share their stories.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We should start doing more affiliate marketing in there though. Cause I feel like we've just been dabbling on Shopify so much and everyone's just so stuck on one way. But I was just talking to someone the other day and I was like, man, I miss affiliate marketing. I don't have to worry about the orders or I don't have to worry about shit. I just got to get the traffic to the offer and make people sign up or buy. And then that's it. I get paid.
No customer service, no product costs, no waiting for China to get over Chinese New Year, which is going to come up, which is going to kill a lot of people.
And their their pages are dialed in for the sale. So
not always, but if you're working with Shannon,
a majority are though. Even if a ClickBank offer that.
Oh yeah, those guys put
those are
the good guys put good testing. Yeah, they take care of so much for you. Literally, if you're I just want to be a Facebook expert, you can make crazy amounts of money and not worry about all the other bullshit that goes with the e-commerce, which there's pros and cons and everything.
Shopify's a full business. E-commerce is a full business.
Where affiliate marketing, it's just money in, money out. It's a great
all day side hustle.
Well, feel free to add me to that Facebook group too. If you think if I would benefit the group there, I'd be happy to contribute there.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Awesome. Thank you for that. There's a way you guys can stalk Shannon, guys.
Yeah, there you go.
I know because I've stalked Blair before. That's another story for another time. But anyways, we'll wrap it up. Thank you so much, Shannon. Thank you, Gabe.
Yeah.
To the community. See you guys on Facebook.
All right, guys. Take care.
Later.
Bye.